It's 7 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and where else would I be but here with you? DJ Stutz here with Little Hearts Academy and the host of Imperfect Heroes podcast. And so I'm really excited to talk about a few things today and some things that are going to be coming up. We're almost ready with the Your Guide to an Amazing Summer. That's almost ready to go. And I have a new thing coming up. I am going to be doing a 10-day challenge for parents who are interested in finding their inner calm, and so that they can reduce the amount of yelling that's going on in their home, and they can find their peace, which will then influence the peace of their kiddos. And so life just gets better all around. So if you're interested, you can always just give me a thumbs up in the comments below, or you can email me, and it's djstutz@littleheartsacademyusa.com, and we will get you on a waiting list. We're just in the beginning stages of this, and so I am interested in seeing how many people might be interested or wanting to do this. It's a great program, and I really believe in this, that if we can find our inner peace enough so that we are able to maintain control rather than losing control when our kids are driving us crazy, and like my hair, and if we can control ourselves during those times, then our kids are actually going to have higher self-esteem. They're going to trust you more. They will most likely listen to you more often, and you're going to be able to build a relationship with them that's going to get you through the teenage years, right? And moving on through some of those times when it gets a little more difficult, because I believe with all my heart, the work that you do when they're the little guys is really going to show how it pays off when they're older, and you're able to have those conversations with them. All that work and that foundation is going to be done while they're little guys. And so speaking of that, actually, I want to talk to you for a minute about this week's podcast. And it's such a good podcast. It is with a lady. Her name is Rachel Bailey, and it's called Getting All Your Duckies in a Row. And because summer's coming up, and this is a time when you can really help your kids to learn about their big emotions and how to manage them in a way that's going to support them, and so they'll have a better year in not in kindergarten. They may be in kindergarten, but in school, as school starts up again in the fall. And so this is the time to get all those little duckies in a row to help your kids just find out more about those big emotions and some things that we can do. So let me tell you just a little bit about Rachel Bailey. So she's a parenting specialist, and she has been serving families for over a decade. And besides, she's a mother of two, and she also has her master's degree in clinical psychology. And she has certification in, and I know you guys have heard of this program, Positive Discipline. And so she's certified in that, as well as she has provided services as an ADHD coach, an in-home mentor, and as a therapist. And so she does have a podcast, and it's a good one. I've listened to a couple episodes, and it's called Your Parenting Long Game. And so this helps specifically with children who have those huge emotions. So we might be talking about kids who have ADHD or even ADD, or it could be they have anxiety issues. It could be maybe they're somewhere on the autistic spectrum, and so that's causing that. Maybe they've got some attachment issues. If they had some early trauma, and maybe if you've adopted a child, we don't know always what's going on. Some people are lucky enough to be there right away. I have some friends that were able to adopt, and they were there for the birth of their child. And so they were able to do all of that, but sometimes there are issues that come up, and the more we know, the more we can react in a positive manner and help them find their way through all of this jungle of emotions. And it's interesting how in our society, as we have gotten to a place where the adults are acting like just ridiculous, angry people. You agree with me or else you're gone. I can't be your friend, and da-da-da. We hear people yelling all the time, and it's both sides. I've seen both sides doing it. And so it's important for us to learn how to manage our own big emotions. Trust me, I have very big emotions. And as we learn more about managing them with ourselves, we're going to learn more about managing them with our kiddos. And so summer's a great time to do that. So Rachel, in her podcast, she gives parents some hands-on tools for raising, and she says, resilient, confident children and bringing flexibility, peace, and connection to families. And isn't that the goal of Little Hearts Academy and Imperfect Heroes podcast? And so we were just a great match, and I really enjoyed talking with her. I will tell you just real quickly that when we recorded, I was on the road, and so the quality isn't quite what you usually get on my usual podcast, but it's good enough, and she has so much really important, very, very good information, and it just so nicely aligns with our program that I just love talking to her. And I know that there's a lot of stress and exhaustion and feelings of guilt and inadequacy that often come with raising a child with those big emotions. And let me tell you, they don't have to have ADHD. They don't have to be on the spectrum. They don't have to have any of these other diagnoses to have big emotions. That's just their personality. And that's just how it goes. But they still are struggling with those. And so it's whether you've got a child with those diagnoses or not, it's really important to know how to help your child through those big emotions. And trust me, and you know this, you know that when you've got like a toddler, a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, and they are overwhelmed with whatever emotions that they've got going on. They're very angry, they're disappointed, they're scared, they're frustrated, they're tired. You know, any child can have those big emotions at any time. And so knowing what to do, how to set it up for success, knowing to learn to understand your child and what they're doing is just so going to help you through life and through managing through these exciting years and these important years. Like I say all the time, it's those early years that's going to make all the difference in how you are able to connect with your child as they are getting older. And I know if you've listened to me before, you know I'm always talking about my son Christian, Mr. ADHD of the world. And it could be really hard when we were raising him and he was little and having these huge emotions, and he would just launch and attack me out of anger and hitting, and I'd have to, you know, grab his arms and give him a hug so that he couldn't hurt himself, so that he couldn't hurt me. And you'd be reassuring him with, I love you and I can let go as soon as we're safe. If you calm down and we can be safe, then I can let go. And there were times that it was over an hour of him just being so angry and so frustrated. And you're thinking, I'm a horrible mother. What am I doing wrong? Why can't I help my son? And then you've got neighbors or people at church or at a park or in the mall, and you feel very judged whether you are or not. And so I understand this so well. And I often felt that it was just a huge feat that we got him to adulthood alive. He was gonna, he just had so much energy, adrenaline junkie, not always making the logical, well thought out decisions. He was very, oh yeah, that sounds good, let's go do it. Oh, well, you could get killed. So, you just worry about those kinds of things. And as a mom, it's just very hard. And, you'd go to church or wherever and he's acting out or he's saying inappropriate things or whatever. And you're just devastated and you feel very judged. Well, I understand that. Well, let me tell you that Christian is now a highway patrol trooper. He's doing very well. He's found the career path that is just for him. And as he was kind of figuring out what he wanted to do with his life and moving forward, he got certified as an EMT. And he found his way somehow, got a job at the state prison as an EMT. So he was handing out medications. He was doing triage if there was a disruption and someone was hurt, a big fight, disruption, a huge fight, right? And so he'd have to go out and do some triage and stay with them if they were getting additional medical coming in. So he was the on-site guy. And when he was working in the prison, we'd run into people from Las Vegas, and they knew our family, and we'd, somehow connect, or they were visiting in town. How's Christian? We're like, oh, he's in prison. And they'd kind of look, and we say, we're just glad he's not an inmate. It's because they didn't really seem surprised when we said he was in prison. So he found the path that was just great for him. He went from there to becoming a guard, and then from a guard to being in the highway patrol. And it was just been a good path for him. And so the truth is that, we all deal with big emotions from time to time. And it's not just our 2, 3, 4, 5-year-olds that are dealing with those big emotions. And sometimes we're dealing with huge emotions that go on for a while. Problems with our job, problems in our marriage, money problems. And boy, it seems like things are getting worse lately with money issues, and things are getting more expensive, and it's harder. The infant formula issue is just kind of unbelievable to me. This is America. But whatever, we're dealing with it. But that causes a ton of stress. And when we're stressed out, our kids will be stressed out. And some kids will try to hide it and try to be strong for mommy and daddy. It doesn't mean that they're not feeling the stress. And then there's other kids that, man, they let you know we're feeling stress, right? And so they're going to move on in. And so it's amazing that Rachel Bailey, really in our conversation, she really gives some terrific advice on how to help your children, and in the process, help yourself, right? And work through those emotions and find just productive ways to process them. And really, one of the big things that we talked about, and it's something that I really believe in, and it's actually why I was thinking we need to do a challenge on us managing our emotions so that we're not yelling at our kids all the time. And it's interesting, as I've been doing research in preparation for this, I'm finding out for sure that there's all these studies for things that I already knew working in the work that I do with coaching and with helping teachers and with helping students, and then the parents of my students and the parents that I coach, and then finding it in my own self that once I could get more control over my anger and more control over my panic and my worry and all of that, that I became calmer, and I became not just even a better parent, I feel like I became a better person, to be quite honest with you. And it's really helped me come to understand other people where they are and to not be so judgmental and to say, you know, wow, they're really having a hard time. And then you start wondering if there's things that you can do to help, or maybe just standing back is the best thing to do as well at that time and not trying to interfere because they need to work it through in their own way. And so I hope that you'll really consider our 10-day challenge, and we'll come up with a date on that. It'll be this summer sometime. If you're interested, you, like I said, you could always just do a thumbs up on this podcast in the comments. You can leave me a comment and say, hey, I'm really interested in that 10-day thing, and so that I know that we can get a hold of you and let you know when we have the date set up. Like I said, we're still in the research and marketing, planning for marketing phase and all of that right now. But it really fits in with today's or this week's podcast. And so I love what we're doing. I love what we're doing, and I love this podcast. And so go ahead and listen in on Rachel and what with her podcast. It's Your Parenting Long Game. I've written down here so I'd get it right. Your Parenting Long Game, and it's on all the podcast places that you can get it. And of course, be sure to listen to our podcast. And two, I'm getting so close to monetizing and being able to afford to bring more people on, more people to help, and to get more researching team done to make sure that we're saying all the right things. And we're so close. But here's the interesting thing is that for monetizing, they only look at downloads. They don't look at people who are streaming, and which I usually stream. I got to be honest with you. I'm usually streaming my podcast because I don't want it taking up all that room on my phone. If you would like to help us out, go ahead and download the episode and then just delete it when you're done with it. And that will make all the difference in the world for us. And we're seeing some great improvements. We're so close. So if you would do that for us, I would love it. And of course, always leave a rating and review. We're getting some great reviews. We've got over 50 reviews now, and only one has been less than a 5. So I'm pretty happy with that. And so just think about, though, as we're working on moving forward, whether it's with the podcast or whether it's with the challenge, just remember that when kids are overreacting, it's equal. That reaction is equal to what's going on inside. That's how awful they're feeling. Think about that. That's how awful they're feeling. And so it's our job then to help them work through that just awfulness that's inside. And you can gauge it by their temper tantrum and how they're feeling. And it may be because they want you to stop and get ice cream, right? It's like, but the reality is they are that upset inside over ice cream. Now, does that mean you need to stop and get them ice cream? Please, no, don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do if they're in the middle of a big fit. But it does mean you can pull the car over, or you can wait till you get home and talk to them at home. But make sure that you're giving them time to process and calm down before you're trying to talk to them. If they're in the middle of that panic, fight or flight emotion, you're not going to teach them anything. And so the best thing you can do is give them their space, or you can say, I can see you're really upset, and I understand you wanted the ice cream, but it wasn't time. So I see you need to cry, and that's fine. Do you want to go to our cozy corner? Do you want to go to your room? Or do you want to sit here and I'll stay with you while you cry? And that's fine. Or you can go cry by yourself and let them choose. And I've said this before, and I'll always say it. The minute you give a child the permission to cry, they will calm down way faster. I'm thinking 10 times faster. It's very rarely that I will use that in my classroom, in my teaching, when I say, Oh, I see you're really upset and you need to cry. That is fine. I get it. Sometimes you just gotta cry. Do you want me to sit down here with you while you cry? Do you want to go to the cozy corner? Where do you want to go to cry? And then they have to come up with a plan that distracts them. They calm down so much faster when instead of trying to make them stop crying, don't you cry now. You can't control that. You can't control a child that is really upset, and they learn that very quickly. And so when you give them that permission, they move on, and then you can start talking about, we can't always stop for ice cream, when this is going on or whatever was happening. We can't always watch our TV show or our screen time. We can't always have mac and cheese for dinner, right? Whatever it is, but you can talk to them then and say, but what are some things we can do instead? And help them make a plan, right? So I've had kids that were struggling. I had one little boy actually this week, and we had terrible winds. I guess it was last week. We had terrible, terrible winds here in the Denver area, and it was just ridiculous, but it was plenty warm, and so we had the kids outside playing, and I had one little boy that went into a panic attack over the winds, and so I was helping some other kids in another area. We were playing a game. One of the kids came running up and said, oh my gosh, so-and-so is screaming. He's hurt. I think he's hurt. So of course I get up, I run over, and he's up on top of our highest structure. And there's panels that are like that. And he's in the corner. That was the most protection he had from the wind, but he was really crying. So I climb up and I sit down next to him. I'm like, buddy, what's wrong? Are you hurt? No, it's the wind. It's the wind. Why can't it stop? I'm like, oh, I hate the wind too. And so we were able to work through it. It was hard for him. The next day was another windy day. And I had talked to his mom about it. I wanted to make sure that the wind wasn't, like if he didn't have some ear issues or the wind was causing pain, any of those things can happen. But she said, no, he's just very sensitive. He hates the wind. Okay. So before we went outside, I knelt down by him and I said, it's a windy day again. And he just looked at me and I said, so do we have a plan? If the wind gets too much for you, what do you think you should do? And he thought about it. He says, I'm going to go to the same place and hide. I'm like, great. Do you want me to come and sit with you, or are you okay by yourself? And he said, if I need you, I'm going to have someone come get you. Okay, this is a 5-year-old. And so sure enough, we'd been out. It wasn't too bad at first, and then it picked up and it was really windy. And I thought, I better go check on this guy. So I went over. Sure enough, he was in the corner. And I said, do you want me to come up and sit by you? And we can talk. And he said, I think I'm okay. I'm just hiding here. This will help the wind. I said, yeah, it will. If you don't need me, that's fine. Nope, I don't need you. I'm like, I was so proud of him. And so I talked to his mom and told her how her son had come up with this plan. He followed through with it without even me, right, being there. And he knew what he needed to do. And those are the kinds of approaches that you're going to take when your child has calmed down and we've identified what the issue was. And then we can say, how did that feel when you were really screaming and upset? Did it feel good? Did it feel bad? And the vast majority of times they will say, oh, it felt bad. I didn't like it. Yeah, that's an icky feeling. So next time, what's something we can do instead that's not going to feel so icky, not going to feel so bad? And they can come up with a plan. Now, if it's something you can see is coming up, you can remind them, oh, do you remember the plan you made when we were talking? And they may or may not. If they don't, say, I think it was this. Do you remember this? Oftentimes they'll say yes, but you can just remind them, what is your plan? What are you going to do if this happens? If you can talk to them ahead of time. If not, and they go into another big thing, again, you're going to say, what's the plan? What's the plan? Because then you're all active and you're all excited. But you can sit down next to them, let them get through it, and then say, do you remember, I thought we had a plan. Did we do that, or did it not work, or did we forget? And they'll tell you. They're generally really good about that. And then you can move forward with, okay, so you did it and this didn't work, so we probably need another plan. Or, oh, we forgot, darn it. Well, next time we'll try to remember. And if you keep doing that in time, they're gonna come around and they're gonna do great. So just be thinking about some of those things. I hope that you will go and listen to the podcast. It's amazing. It's going to give you some fantastic information. And again, if you're interested in the 10-day challenge, throw a thumbs up or just make a comment down below and just say, yep, I'm interested in the 10-day. And I'll know what that means. And as soon as we get everything figured out and ready to go, I'll make sure to message you or contact you, and we'll get things moving. This is going to be, by the way, a free event. This challenge will be a free event. And so that will be fun. I worry sometimes though, because oftentimes when you do something for free and you're trying to do something to help out other people, but if it's free, people tend not to show up. And if they have to pay something, then they're generally going to show up and do the homework and stick with it because they've had to pay for it. So I'm, excuse me, I'm going to give this a chance on free, and we'll see what happens. And then we'll have to reassess, come up with a plan, and we'll figure out what to do next. So until next time, let's find joy in parenting. Goodbye, guys.